Autumn 1977. The wind carried the smell of coal smoke and wet leaves all the way to the factory gate, and for a second I just stood there, staring at the faded slogans on the wall like they were a hallucination. The red paint, the loudspeaker crackling, the same stone steps I used to scrub on my knees. My palms went cold. I had died. I remembered dying. I remembered 50 years of being called Comrade Wren, of being praised as the model wife, of holding my husband's hand through illnesses and layoffs and hunger winters, believing love could outlast everything. And I remembered the day he finally closed his eyes, the room still smelling of medicine, when a woman walked in with a grown son and a marriage certificate that turned my entire life into a joke. Not my name, her name, and the boy who looked exactly like him, standing beside her like the punchline of fate. I had coughed up blood in front of all those mocking faces, hearing them call me nanny, hearing them call me shameless, when I was the only one who had never been shameless. Now I was back at the beginning, back on the day the lie first knocked on my door. The guard at the factory gate squinted at me. "Looking for Engineer Liang again? He went to the station to pick someone up. They say it's his brother's widow." Brother's widow. I almost laughed. My throat tightened instead, like a hand closing around it. In my first life, I had believed that excuse so completely. I helped them carry the lie into my home with my own 2 hands. I gave away our savings. I gave away my ration coupons. I even gave away my name. When the college entrance exam returned, I should have been the one holding the admission letter. Instead, I wrote another woman's name on my paper because my husband told me it was repaying kindness. That woman used my score to walk into a bright future, while I stayed behind, bent over a stove, raising her child as if I owed the world an apology for existing. This time, I didn't owe anyone anything. My feet moved before my mind finished shaking. I ran home, the familiar alley rushing past, my breath coming out in white puffs. The door was still the same, the lock still sticky from cheap oil, the corridor still narrow enough to trap a person's hope. I went straight to the bedroom, straight to the wooden box under the bed, and flipped the lid open like I was cutting a vein. Cash, grain coupons, cloth coupons, meat coupons, shoe coupons. My life folded into paper. I swept everything into my pockets until they bulged and my ribs hurt from the pressure. Then I went to the post office and sent half of it to my parents without a single tremor in my hand. After that, I walked to the supply cooperative and traded cloth coupons for 4 sets of clothes, the kind I had watched other women wear while I stitched patches onto my own sleeves. I traded shoe coupons for 2 solid pairs of shoes and felt an almost sinful satisfaction when the new soles hit the ground. And then, because I could, I walked into a small street restaurant and exchanged meat and grain coupons for a bowl of spare ribs, so fragrant it made my eyes sting. I ate slowly. I ate like someone who had been starved in more ways than one. I ate until my stomach was warm and my heart stopped begging. When I finally headed home with bags in both hands, Engineer Liang Jun came toward me from the opposite direction, moving fast, anxious, already rehearsing his kindness. "Yao," he said, forcing lightness into his voice. "You went shopping?" I lifted the clothes and shoes a little, as if I were showing him a prize. "I haven't bought anything new since we got married. 3 years, so I used the coupons I saved." I watched his face tighten, watched the shadow pass over his eyes before he swallowed it down. In my first life, that look would have made me panic, apologize, shrink myself smaller. So I smiled instead, sweet and careful. "June, are you unhappy?" His jaw worked. "Of course I'm unhappy," he said, then immediately softened, like a man remembering he still needed something from me. "But forget it, there's something I have to tell you." I didn't let him. I stepped closer, lowered my voice like I was confessing a sin. I also have something to tell you. I sent my saved wages and food coupons back to my parents. They're older now. They need money. What? His voice cracked upward. The bags in my hands might as well have been knives. That was our savings, 3 years' worth. I blinked at him, wide-eyed innocence in full bloom. Are you angry? Don't be mad. It's my fault. I won't decide things alone next time. His nostrils flared. He looked like he wanted to shake me, but he couldn't. Not in the alley. Not with neighbours within earshot. So he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm not angry. Just, next time you tell me first. I nodded like an obedient wife, while inside I whispered, There won't be a next time. He cleared his throat, eager to steer the conversation back to his script. It's like this, my brother's friend. You know he passed away 3 years ago. Before he died, he asked me to take care of his wife and child. They have nowhere to go. They need help. In my first life, I had praised him for righteousness and cried over his loyalty. This time, I gave him exactly what he wanted, in the exact tone that would make him relax. Helping people is a good thing. I support you. His shoulders loosened with relief. Then I tilted my head as if thinking hard. But June, part of your salary goes to your parents, part goes to the house, and now you want to support a widow and child too. Do you think it's enough? He went still. I continued, gentle as a blade sliding in. When we married, we agreed my parents are struggling. My younger brother is still in school. From now on, my salary will go home, so this household will rely entirely on you. The silence that followed tasted better than spare ribs. That night, I didn't cook fish or meat. I made cornmeal porridge, stir-fried greens, and put pickled radish on the table like a verdict. When Su Chow arrived next door with her child clinging to her, she looked around my kitchen the way a queen looks at a servant's hands. This is it? She snapped, staring at the bowls. I put on my most apologetic face. Sorry, I went too late. That's all that was left. Tomorrow I'll treat you and the child to something better. She stormed away, offended, and Liang Jun sighed at me like I had embarrassed him. Yao, using this to entertain guests is... We're out of money, I said quietly, and let shame paint my cheeks. Just now, in front of Comrade Gu at the cooperative. I was too embarrassed to say it. If you can borrow some, I can cook again. He didn't borrow anything. He couldn't. And for the first time in his life, he had to scrub and mop with his own hands, because I leaned against the doorframe and held my waist like it hurt. I twisted my back, I said softly. I can't do heavy work. I might even need tomorrow off. Later, when the lights went low, I slipped near their door and listened. Su Chow's voice, sharp with complaint. Why is it so different? It wasn't like this before. And June, didn't you say you saved over 1,000? My fingers went cold. Before, how did she know that number? Inside, Liang Jun's voice turned rough, angry, exhausted. What 1,000? How do you know about that? Su Chow laughed, too quick. I guessed, but in the dark, her guess sounded like someone reading a script she had already memorized. I backed away silently, my heart thudding in my throat. If I had been given a second life, why wouldn't she? And if she had returned too, then this wasn't just revenge, it was war. He slipped in after 10, moving like a thief who still wanted to be mistaken for a husband. I kept my eyes closed, my lashes resting against my cheeks, my breathing even. In the dark, every sound was louder. The scrape of his sleeve, the careful step, the pause he always made before climbing into bed, as if rehearsing tenderness. Warm weight settled behind me, an arm looped around my waist. His lips brushed the shell of my ear, soft enough to make any naive woman melt. Yao, he whispered, using the name he knew could soften me. Let's have a baby. For a heartbeat, my stomach turned. Not from shyness, but from the sting of an old wound. In my first life, that sentence was a dream I chased for 50 years. 50 years of silent disappointment, 50 years of herbal soups his mother forced down my throat, bitter enough to rot my teeth. 50 years of being called a hen that couldn't lay eggs, of watching women my age cradle babies while I swallowed my tears and smiled like it didn't matter. And he, Liang Jun, he was careful with me on the surface. When his mother jabbed a finger at my nose, he would step in, voice gentle. "Enough, Mum." When neighbours whispered, he would pull me closer and say, "I don't need children. Having you is enough." How easily I believed it, how easily I vowed, in that first life, that I would walk through fire and water for him, because I thought love was a promise and not a knife. But the truth was that another woman had already borne his child. Another woman had already signed her name beside his on a marriage certificate I had never seen. I was not childless. I was simply not the wife. A hand slid along my stomach, wandering as if he owned the future. I caught his wrist and pushed it away. "I'm not feeling well," I said, voice flat. "Let's sleep early." Silence. His arm didn't move for a long second, as if his mind couldn't accept the shape of refusal. In my first life, I had never said no. Not once. My body had always been an apology, a bargaining chip, proof that I was still useful even if I couldn't give him a child. Behind me, I felt his stare, sharp and stunned, pinning my back. I didn't turn around. I pulled the blanket tighter, rolled away, and deliberately left a person's width of distance between us. A minute later, a scream tore through the night outside, thin and frantic. "Ah!" Liang Jun shot up like someone yanked a string. He didn't even put on his shoes. The door banged. His footsteps pounded across the courtyard toward the neighbour's house. He didn't come back. I didn't bother checking. In my first life, I would have sat up all night staring at the clock, worrying if he was cold, if he had eaten, if something had happened to him. I would have swallowed every humiliation as long as he came home and called me Yao in that gentle voice. This time I slept deeply. The next morning I woke to the smell of nothing. No rice steaming, no kettle whistling, only the quiet tension of a house pretending to be normal. Liang Jun sat in the living room, face dark as storm water. His eyes were red like he hadn't slept at all, and for a moment I almost admired the audacity of it. He had spent the night elsewhere, yet he was the one wearing grievance like a medal. I yawned, stretching slow, as if my life had no cracks. "What's for breakfast? We still have cornmeal from last night. Should we just eat that?" The chair screeched as he kicked it aside. "What's wrong with you?" I asked calmly. "Who pissed you off?" He spun to face me, jaw clenched. "Yao Ren. I didn't come back all night and you slept like the dead. Do you even have me in your heart at all?" His voice rose high enough to attract ears from the courtyard. I blinked at him, as if confused by the script. "Do you really need to ask? Haven't I always had you in my heart?" In my first life, my heart had been a room I kept spotless for him, even when he threw mud across the floor. I had studied his frowns like they were scripture, tried to decode every sigh, blamed myself for every shadow in his eyes. But the Yao Ren of this life had already seen the end of the story. I walked past him, lit the stove, and began warming the cornmeal porridge without hurry. My indifference hit him harder than any slap. His breath turned rough. Then he slammed the door and left. The moment he left, the porridge stopped mattering. I poured the hot water into a thermos, packed my bag, and was about to head out when the neighbour's door creaked open. Su Qiao appeared, holding her little boy with one arm. In her other hand were steamed buns and a paper cup of soy milk, still steaming. Her smile was light, practiced, and her eyes slid over me like a needle. "Sister-in-law," she sighed, voice sweet as rot. How can you eat cornmeal so early? Jun really doesn't know how to care for people. He bought buns and soy milk for me and Xiao An, but he lets you eat pig slop. There it was, the provocation, wrapped in pity. In my first life, I would have swallowed it. I would have smiled and said she must be tired, that it was fine, that I wasn't picky, that she should eat. This time, I didn't waste a single word. I reached out, snatched the buns and soy milk from her hands, tore one bun open and took a bite right in front of her. Then I walked. Her eyes widened so fast the mask cracked. She chased after me, furious, voice trembling with shock. "Give that back! That's mine! Jun bought it with his money!" I took another bite, chewed slowly, and turned my head just enough to let my voice carry. "Your money," I said, loud enough for the road, loud enough for the workers walking toward the factory gates. "Then tell me, Comrade Sue, why is my husband buying breakfast for you while his own wife is eating cornmeal at home?" People stopped, heads turned, steps slowed. Morning curiosity gathered like smoke. Su Chao's face went crimson. You're misunderstanding. Misunderstanding?" I raised my voice, letting it shake with perfectly measured grievance. "Shouldn't a brother's widow know her limits? Calling him out late at night? Keeping him away all night? Then letting him buy you buns and soy milk in the morning? I've been married to Liang Jun for 3 years and never enjoyed such treatment." Murmurs rose like insects in summer. "That's shameless. Eating another woman's husband's breakfast." "A widow, but acting like a wife." Su Chao's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out that would save her. I wiped my lips with the back of my hand and softened my tone, as if I were being reasonable. "If he bought them for you, eat them. Everyone knows my June is kind-hearted. But don't come to my door and call my food pig slop. Don't flaunt it like I should be grateful to watch you eat." The crowd's sympathy shifted like a tide, away from her and toward me. I could feel it. I could almost taste it. Su Xiao spun and stormed back inside, slamming the door hard enough to shake the window frame. I smiled to myself, buns warm in my hand, soy milk sweet on my tongue. Good. Let the streets and alleys chew on this story. Let the aunties carry it from mouth to mouth like fire, because a lie like theirs could survive in darkness, but not under daylight. "All right," I said, voice mild, almost dutiful. "It's settled. The job goes to Comrade Su Chao so you can repay the favor you claim you owe." Liang Jun's shoulders loosened, relief passing through him like warm tea. He had been watching me too closely these days, weighing every word I said, every breath I took, as if my skin might crack and reveal the truth underneath. I lifted my eyes to him and added very softly, "But let me make one thing clear. From now on, keep your distance. I get a strange feeling about her. She's mysterious, cryptic, off." The room fell still, his gaze fixed on me for a long moment. Unreadable, sharp enough to raise gooseflesh on my arms. A chill crawled up my spine. So she had spoken. Su Chao had already planted suspicion in his mind, warning him about my changes, testing the waters with him the way a spider tests a thread. In my bones, I knew it. If she had returned to this life like I did, she would recognize every step I refused to repeat. Liang Jun's mouth twitched into something that tried to resemble a smile. "You're overthinking," he said. "Maybe," I replied, gentle as cotton, "but a woman's instincts are rarely wrong." That night, I lay awake long after he fell silent. The ceiling above me was the same old stained plaster, but my thoughts ran like rats in the dark. If Su Chao was reborn too, then she would be watching me the way I watched her. She would be counting my reactions, waiting for one slip, one crack of hatred, one word too sharp. I couldn't afford to give myself away, so I agreed. I played obedient. I handed her what she wanted, not because I was generous, because I was setting the stage. Near midnight, I heard a whisper beside me. "Yao, Yao." I kept my eyes closed and didn't move a muscle. After a moment, the mattress shifted. Liang Jun climbed out of bed as quietly as possible and slipped out. I waited 3 breaths, then rose like a shadow and followed. He crossed the courtyard to the neighbour's house. Through the wall, I heard low voices in the cold air. Su Qiao's voice, eager and tense. "Well, did she agree?" "She did," Liang Jun murmured. A short, stunned pause. Then Su Qiao hissed, "How could that be possible? If she was reborn, would she be this obedient? She'd hate us to death." "But she's changed," Su Qiao insisted. "She wasn't like this." "Enough!" Liang Jun's voice went hard, warning. "I don't want to hear any more about previous lives. I'm being evaluated for promotion. This is a critical period. Don't you dare stir trouble." Su Qiao's tone turned sour. "Fine. I won't bring it up again." Then, softer, greedier. "Don't leave tonight. Stay." A rustle, a breath. Words that didn't belong in a courtyard. I backed away before the sound could poison my ears any further. Strangely, I felt relieved. Good. They were still afraid, still suspicious, still clinging to the idea that I hadn't returned. If I had refused the job transfer, they would have sharpened their knives immediately. The next morning, I went to the office and spoke to my supervisor like I was discussing the weather. I explained that my husband had a debt of gratitude and wanted to help a widow with a child. The supervisor frowned but didn't argue. In those days, people loved a story about righteousness. Comrade Su Qiao started the very next day. When I came home that evening, she was waiting at the door, holding the boy. Her smile was stretched tight, like a thread pulled too far. "You're back," she said. "Did you talk to the boss?" I beamed at her, bright and harmless. "Yes, you start tomorrow." Her eyes flickered with relief, then slid into calculation. "Then I really must thank you. Jun has been so good to us. He said Xiao An and I are too thin. At noon, he bought eggs, ribs, and brown sugar." She watched my face, searching for jealousy, anger, anything. I laughed lightly, like a woman with no spine. "Isn't that a good thing, a widow raising a child alone? It's not easy. If you're short on money, just tell June. Let him help more." Her expression stiffened, disappointment flashing behind her eyes before she smoothed it over. She left, holding the child, walking away like someone who had lost a bet. I watched her go, cold and calm. She thought I surrendered my job out of kindness. She was wrong. It was October 1977. And I remembered exactly what was coming. The announcement, the loudspeakers, the whole street erupting like a pot boiling over. The college entrance exam would be reinstated. In my first life, I stayed home, cooked, cleaned, raised their child, and still studied whenever I could. I was preparing to fight for my future until Liang Jun persuaded me at the last moment to write Su Qiao's name on my paper. He said it would clear the debt. I did it, and she walked into university, wearing my score like a stolen coat. This time, I quit MTPSI to study with a clean mind and clean time. I went to the bookstore daily, copying notes, drilling math, reading essays until my eyes burned. 2 weeks passed like that, peaceful on the surface, sharp underneath. Then one afternoon, the street loudspeaker burst into life. "The college entrance examinations have been reinstated." My heart surged so hard it hurt. Fate was knocking again. This time, I would answer as myself. That evening when I returned home, Liang Jun and Su Qiao were both there. Too ready, too neatly seated, like actors who had already memorized the scene. The moment I sat down, Liang Jun leaned forward. "About the exam, write Su Qiao's name, just like last time." I let my face tighten with worry. "I don't object. I'm just not sure I can pass." Su Qiao's eyes glittered. She already knew I could. She had lived through it once. "You will," she said quickly. "Study hard. You'll definitely pass." I nodded. humble and grateful. Then I'll try, but don't blame me if I fail. Of course not. Su Qiao smiled too brightly. From now on, you don't do anything else. Just study. I'll handle all the housework. How generous. How disgusting. I lowered my head like a grateful fool, hiding the curve of my mouth. A month later, on the morning of December 11th, 1977, I walked into the examination hall with hope like a blade in my chest. Liang Jun and Su Qiao saw me off, their smiles polite, their hearts hungry. Inside, the room smelled of ink and winter coats. I picked up my pen, and I wrote my own name, neat and steady, at the top of the paper. Yao Ren. The exam was easy. Easier than my fear, easier than my past. When I walked out, they rushed toward me. How did it go? Liang Jun demanded, trying to sound casual. Not bad, I said. Su Qiao couldn't hide her excitement. That's great! You'll definitely get in. Let's celebrate. Liang Jun even booked a restaurant. We ate ribs and drank cheap liquor, laughing like a family. And in that laughter, everyone was genuinely happy. I was happy because freedom was finally close. As for what they were celebrating, I didn't care. The next morning, I woke late, head slightly heavy. Then the front door shook under furious kicks. Open up! What time is it, Yao Ren? Are you dead? Still sleeping? A woman's shrill voice tore through the courtyard, amplified by rage. My eyes snapped open. Liang Jun's mother. In my first life, that voice had been a whip. This time, I sat up slowly, the corners of my mouth lifting, because I knew exactly where this was going. And I was about to hand her the match. She even took the initiative to apologize to Su Qiao. In front of everyone, she lowered her head, clasped her hands, and said she had misunderstood me. She even volunteered to help look after Xiao An, acting as if she was suddenly a saint. I saw through it. I didn't say it out loud. There was no need. Only one thing could make a woman like Liang Jun's mother bend her spine that fast. Not kindness, not fairness, not conscience, blood. Someone had told her the truth. Either Liang Jun himself or Su Qiao, because now that she knew the boy was her biological grandson, the old woman's heart turned overnight. She started calling Su Qiao and Xiao An over for meals every day, pressing the fattest pieces of pork into the child's bowl, spooning him egg custard, pouring him sweet water like he was a little prince. Even Su Qiao received warmth she didn't deserve. The old woman's smile for her was syrupy, proud, almost triumphant. Only toward me did she keep her teeth sharp. Just like before, she snapped the moment her mood turned. Useless hen! Empty belly! Dead-end woman! And then, as if one blade wasn't enough, she joined hands with Su Qiao to force me into divorce, two women pushing from both sides, pretending it was for the Liang family's future. I should have felt furious. Instead, I felt a quiet happiness so cold it was almost sweet, because I'd been waiting for them to say it. When Liang Jun's mother finally barged into my room and spat, "Get out! Divorce him! Make room!" I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I didn't cling. I seized the opportunity with both hands. "I've been married 3 years, and I have nothing," I said, lowering my eyes like a woman being reasonable. "No child. No job. If you throw me out with empty hands, where do you expect me to go? People will gossip. You can't just let me starve." Her eyes shifted, calculating. Then she coughed, as if doing me a favor. "Fine. We'll give you some money. Settle it cleanly." Su Qiao's gaze flashed. She thought university was already in her pocket. She thought she was stepping into the comfortable future she remembered, where Liang Jun climbed higher and higher and she rode his shadow like a queen. So she pushed the old woman to pay me off quickly, to remove me cleanly, to finally stand beside Liang Jun openly. The 3 of us negotiated in whispers. 200 became 3. 3 became 5. 500 yuan. It was a lot of money in those days. Enough to buy a person's silence. Enough to buy my living expenses if I truly went to university. I took it with both hands, expression trembling with gratitude, like I was a woman too weak to stand on her own. In truth, my heart was laughing. I packed fast. I didn't take much. I left behind everything that smelled like their household. I carried only what I needed, and when I stepped out, the air felt lighter, as if the walls themselves were exhaling. I made it all the way to the station before a hand slammed onto my arm. Liang Jun. He looked panicked, breath uneven, as if I were a runaway possession rather than a wife. "Yao," he demanded, voice low and dangerous. "Where are you going? Who allowed you to leave?" Inside, a rage so hot it turned to ice spread through my chest. How could this disgusting man ruin my plan at the last moment? Why couldn't he simply let me disappear the way he planned to use me? I covered my face and sobbed, making my shoulders shake, making my voice crack like a broken bird. "I can't have children," I cried. "I can't give you a family. I can't continue the Liang line. I'm a sinner. I don't deserve to stay. Please, let me go." His hands gripped my shoulders hard. "Don't talk nonsense," he said, and his voice softened the way it always did when he wanted to sound like a savior. "You're my wife, the one I love most. No one can separate us." Then, like a man dragging a sack of grain, he dragged me back. When we returned, Liang Jun's mother and Su Qiao's faces changed instantly. Like two people watching a door they thought was locked suddenly swing open again. I didn't know what Liang Jun said to them in private, but after that, neither dared to openly chase me away anymore. Liang Jun's mother stopped shouting "divorce" in front of him. Instead, she switched weapons. "Give back the 500, she hissed. "That money is mine." How could I possibly return money that was already in my hands? So I lied with the sweetest face. "I sent it to my parents," I said meekly. "I'll write and ask them to return it." I stalled. I delayed. I smiled. And because Liang Jun was the only decision-maker in that family, his mother and Su Qiao could only grind their teeth and wait. The old woman didn't stop tormenting me, of course. She cursed at me when Liang Jun wasn't home. She hissed insults at my back. She tried to pinch my arm like she used to, but this time, when Liang Jun found out, he snapped at her with real fury and ordered her to go back to the countryside. So she changed tactics again. She forced me to the hospital for a checkup. "What's the point of keeping a chicken that can't lay eggs?" she barked the whole way. "If it can be fixed, you stay. If not, get out. I'm waiting for grandsons." The doctor examined me and sighed. "Everything looks normal." Then, in a tone of practiced neutrality, he added, "Your husband should be checked too. Infertility isn't always the woman's issue. Men can have problems as well." Liang Jun's mother exploded. "What nonsense!" she shrieked, then abruptly cut herself off mid-sentence, like she'd almost said something dangerous. Her face twisted and she stabbed a finger toward me instead. "It's her. She's the barren one." On the walk home, she cursed the doctor as a quack, spat venom at me, and repeated that I should get lost if I couldn't conceive. I let her words roll past like wind, but inside, a thought clicked into place with a soft, terrifying clarity. In my first life, the doctor had said the same thing. My body was normal. Yet I never conceived. I had once suggested Liang Jun get checked, but he refused with that familiar tenderness. "I don't need children. Having you is enough." And yet, he had a child. Xiao An existed, but at the hospital, when Xiao An needed blood after the accident, the nurse said they needed type B. I remembered it because it cut through the chaos like a razor. Liang Jun had type A. Su Qiao had type O. Then how could Xiao An be type B? I stared at Liang Jun that day, really stared, and for the first time I noticed something I had ignored for years. Xiao An didn't resemble him, not as a child, not as a teenager in my memories, not even as an adult who drove me out of the house with that cruel sneer. My mind returned to the doctor's words. Sometimes the problem isn't the woman. Sometimes the man can't. A sick sweetness rose in my throat. So what, then, was Xiao An? And what exactly had Su Qiao been so confident about? Across 2 lives. Back home that evening, Liang Jun sent Su Qiao away so he could talk to me. He hugged me, murmuring comfort, pretending his mother was sharp-tongued but soft-hearted. I let him hold me, letting him believe in his own performance. Then I lifted my face and said softly, "If I'm truly the one at fault, maybe we should divorce." His refusal came too fast, too absolute. "Impossible. You're my wife, only you." I watched his face, the practiced sincerity, the way he held on like a man terrified of losing his shield. And finally, the answer I'd been chasing in both lifetimes slid into view. He didn't keep me because he loved me. He kept me because he needed me. A respectable wife at home, a clean image at work, a woman to absorb all the blame, a woman to raise a child that wasn't hers, a woman to keep his hands clean while he lived dirty. That was why he wouldn't let me go. And once I understood that, my heart went quiet. Very quiet. Quiet enough to plan, quiet enough to wait, quiet enough to smile when the next scream rose outside, because this time I wasn't going to be their servant of fate. I was going to be the person who lit the match and watched the truth burn into daylight. "You set us up, Yao Ren." Su Qiao's voice shook when she said it, but she still tried to make it sound like righteous anger, as if the 2 of them hadn't crawled into each other's bed willingly, as if the smoke and the screaming neighbours were some cruel misunderstanding forced upon innocent people. I didn't answer her. I didn't have to, because in this era, a man's reputation wasn't just pride. It was his future, his promotion, his ration tickets, his standing in the unit. And improper. Relationships weren't gossip alone. They were charges. They were interrogations. They were handcuffs. By the next morning, Liang Jun was summoned by his workplace. Suspension, self-reflection, investigation. The announcement spread through the compound faster than winter wind. The engineer everyone once praised for uprightness became the main dish on every tongue, and Su Qiao, who hadn't even finished her probation after stealing my position, was dismissed on the spot. No argument, no discussion. The unit didn't need trouble clinging to its walls. Outside, the story kept mutating. Some said they met secretly every night. Some swore they took advantage of my sleep, slipping next door like thieves, laughing at my blind devotion. People who didn't even know my name began to describe my humiliation in vivid detail, adding spice with every retelling. Their faces were ruined, their names became dirty, and the most furious person in the entire mess wasn't even Su Qiao. It was Liang Jun's mother. She had been in the hospital, crying and beating her chest over the injured, disabled boy, over little Treasure. While her son was rolling in sin, she was acting like a martyr. When the truth exploded into the daylight, she couldn't accept that she had been made a fool, so she turned her rage toward the only person she thought she could still control, me. She stormed into the house, finger stabbing toward my face. "It's all because of you, you jinx! Because of you, my John lost his job! What do you think you'll eat and drink now?" The old me would have lowered my head and swallowed it. This me raised my hand and slapped her so hard the sound cracked through the room. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes bulged. Her hand trembled as she pointed again, but this time it shook with disbelief. You hit me!" she wheezed. "You ungrateful wretch! I'll report you! I'll sue you!" I leaned in, voice low and cold. "Go ahead. I'll be waiting." Then I straightened, not hiding anything anymore. "At this point, there's no need to pretend. You've known all along what your precious son was doing, haven't you? You knew he was sleeping with Su Qiao. You knew he had a child with her. and you still tried to use me to make me scrub, cook, sacrifice, and keep your family's image clean. Your whole household is worse than pigs, she shrieked and lunged forward like she wanted to scratch my eyes out. Rebellious girl, how dare you? I'm going to the police station! I folded my arms and smiled, slow and sharp. Before you run, let me remind you of something your son probably didn't dare to say out loud. She froze. Did you ever wonder why no one can find our marriage registration? I asked softly. Because there isn't one. Liang Jun and I were never legally married. Her face went blank. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. I tilted my head. Your son's legal wife is Su Qiao. He deceived me. He brought me into his house without even registering. For a second, the old woman's anger melted into something else, something bright and greedy. Her eyes lit up. So my son and Su Qiao are the real couple, she breathed, like she had found a rope while drowning. Then it's not an affair. It's not illegal for them to be together. His job can be saved. She nearly laughed from relief, already imagining the supervisors forgiving everything, already imagining her son walking back into the unit with his head high. I watched her joy with a quiet sneer. She didn't understand. Whether the paper existed or not, he had still deceived, exploited, and disgraced the unit. And in this era, morality was a knife that cut deeper than law. Still, she ran to confirm it. She went straight to Liang Jun, and he, cornered, desperate, admitted the truth. No registration, no legal marriage with me. Hope surged through them like poison pretending to be medicine. Liang Jun grabbed at it with both hands and came to me as if I were his last lifeline. He knelt, actually knelt, tears on his face, voice cracking with remorse. Yao, I've always loved you. Su Qiao and I, it was all her scheme. I was drunk. She seduced me, then she blackmailed me. I was afraid you'd leave, so I hid it. I'm a victim too. I was forced into marrying her. I stared at him, then I laughed. Not loudly, not hysterically. Just one cold, clear laugh, like the sound of a door locking. Liang Jun, I said, do you really think I'd believe that? His tears faltered. I stepped closer and let my voice cut. Let me tell you the truth. You drove me to death once. You, Su Qiao, and that boy. You took everything, then called me the other woman in my own home. So tell me, do you think I, who has lived again, would be stupid enough to swallow your excuses? His face drained of colour. You're reborn too. I nodded. Yes. He looked stunned, as if the world had tilted. Then, like a rat backed into a corner, he tried a new lie immediately, blaming Su Qiao again. I never wanted to marry her. She swapped your name on the certificate. She threatened to report me. Enough, I cut him off. You and Su Qiao are perfectly matched, two shameless people wearing human skin. His eyes hardened, and there it was, the real Liang Jun. The one I had married without papers, without protection, without truth. A woman like you can't bear children, he spat. What can you do without me? It's only because I love you that I tolerated your infertility. Any other family would have beaten you and thrown you out. I smiled. So what am I supposed to thank you for? Wasting my life? He swallowed, remembering his goal. Yao, listen, just go to my superiors and explain. Tell them you and I were never married. Tell them Su Qiao and I are the real couple. Then I won't lose my job. As long as I keep working, I'll support you. I'll take care of you for life. I looked at him like he was dirt under my shoe. Support me, I said softly. I have hands. I have feet. Why should I depend on a liar? He sneered again, ready to strike. But you can't have children, I interrupted him with a calmness that made his face twitch. Liang Jun, I said. Let me share some great news. I'm going to college. His mouth dropped open. What? Didn't you take the exam for Su Chao? I tilted my head, letting him see the truth with his own eyes. I made that mistake once. Why would I repeat it? The realization hit him like a hammer. His expression twisted. You've been deceiving me all along. Exactly, I said. From the moment I confirmed what you and Su Xiao were, I decided. You don't get to use me again. Then I leaned in, voice almost gentle. I hope you and Su Xiao live happily with your disabled son. He looked like he wanted to kill me. And before I leave, I added, smiling, I'll send you a parting gift. He screamed curses behind my back as I packed, filthy words borrowed straight from his mother's mouth. Su Xiao tried to block the door, eyes burning. How dare you scheme against me? My answer was 2 clean slaps. She fell to the ground. I stepped on her chest, bent down, and spoke each word clearly, slowly, so it would sink into her bones. Don't provoke me, I said, or your secret won't stay hidden. Her eyes widened. What? Secret? I smiled. You know exactly what I mean. Who does little treasure really belong to? You've played this game flawlessly for 2 lifetimes, but even flawless games end. The panic on her face was instant, total, too fast to be acted, and in that moment, my suspicion became certainty. I turned and walked away. I didn't wait for them to ruin themselves slowly. I moved faster. I wrote a report to the disciplinary committee. Clear, detailed, merciless. Moral corruption, deception, exploitation, abuse of position. The investigators came. The evidence surfaced. Liang Jun's self-reflection ended in a dismissal so loud it echoed through every corridor he once walked with pride. A week later, my admission letter arrived. I held it like a passport out of hell. I boarded the train to the capital with my future folded safely against my chest. And before the city swallowed me, I delivered my last gift to Liang Jun. I told him the truth that would poison every breath he took. That he could never father children, and that the disabled boy he had built his sins around wasn't even his. What happened after that? It wasn't my concern, but months later, a fellow townsman came to the capital and whispered about a horrifying murder case back home. A man, a woman, a disabled son, blood, dismemberment. The man's name was Liang Jun. He was sentenced to death. When I heard it, I only smiled, faintly, quietly, like someone finally watching a long-delayed debt get paid in full.